Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. It is Fatmata here from Traditionally Inspired Meaningful Art, and I'm not even going to be disrespectful and call this a Friday Sews. We're just going to do a quick sewing catch up to let you know what I've been doing all last week and through this weekend. In the sewing space, I have made two new things since we last spoke, and I'm wearing them both right now. So the first thing I want to tell you about is this incredible wrap front button-up blouse, which I made as a pattern hack. So I smushed together these two raglan tops, Simplicity S8834 and McCall's 7472. I utilized the bodice, front, and the arm side and the sleeves and the two-piece collar of the McCall's pattern, and utilize the tie front feature of the Simplicity pattern. I did omit, I did not use the button front placket of the McCall's pattern because I simply extended the front, the center front of both of the bodice pieces by 2 inches and flipped it inside on itself. To serve as the button front placket so that I wouldn't have to do a separate piece. This garment did not go as planned. There was so much headache involved in actually creating this piece. So I recorded the making of this top, and I cannot wait to put that video together and share it with you all because it was a brain twister. I sat there with both of these pattern pieces and was just a little bit nervous of whether or not I was getting it right, because the bodice fronts are quite different as far as how far they go up to accommodate, of course, the two-piece collar for the McCall's pattern, and because the Simplicity pattern is a bit wider around the neck, even a bit more so than I think it appears on the photo. So it took me a while to even figure out how I wanted to cut out the pattern pieces, but luckily when I finally got around to it, I was able to sort of begin. And then came another dilemma. I had purchased these cotton fabrics from Joann's all across multiple visits to Joann's, and it is one of their fabrics that's usually in their denim section. It's a cotton polyester spandex blend. I think 70% cotton, 28% polyester, and 2% spandex. I never, until I was in the process of cutting these things out, noticed that the whites weren't the same white. I had 3 different cuts of this fabric. 2 of the cuts were like shorter remnant pieces, which were off-white. And then I had a full 1 yard piece of this fabric that was a very stark white. So I had to sort of finagle that. I ended up just going with a half and half in case I was in a certain lighting where it would be noticeable. I didn't want to start cutting out one bodice front out of the off-white and another out of the regular white and say I don't care. I cared. It mattered to me. So I just said, make it intentional. So I cut everything on the front of this top out in the stark white, and that includes the front part of the sleeve. The sleeve piece from the McCall's pattern is actually a single pattern piece. I went ahead and added a center seam to the top of the sleeve right here, and I just made it 2-tone just in case. So the front bodice and the front part of the sleeve, the collar, and the inside right side of the cuff are all in the stark white, and I use off-white for the back piece, the back of the sleeve, and for the under parts, like the under part of the collar and the under part of the cuffs, etc. So that's sort of how I hacked it and put it all together, because it was allowing me to then use up all of the fabric, as much of it anyways as I could, without having to go and try and purchase additional fabric. I wasn't going to do that. And while it might not be noticeable to all, especially, given the lighting with this recording, you might not be able to see it as much, but trust me, in person, it is noticeable. So it was something that I wasn't even going to fiddle with. It just needed to sort of happen that way. So I'm glad that I stuck to it and sort of went for it. I also used some of my new buttons. I used one of these spherical buttons that I had recently picked up in a thrift haul, and it has this sort of like gold strike through it, which I think is just beautiful and super elegant. So I went ahead and used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the buttons down the center front. I ended up adding these really long floppy sleeves, which in my mind, in my defense, I think would look lovely if this was a satin fabric, if this was a charmeuse fabric, because I love that like really big billowy sleeve that you sort of hold right here and it just sort of drapes and sort of comes down over your wrist. I love that look. Reminds me of like 90s TLC. I'm digging on you, like all the things. This is not that fabric. This was not the right fabric to do that, and it is so structured. So if I were to go back and change anything about this right now from where I'm sitting with this make right now, would be to go back and just fix the sleeves. Right now I've just been sort of folding it over and buttoning it, but it is quite bulky. Overall, am I happy about this top? The answer is yes. Let me just get to that really quickly. I'm really happy that I made it and that I went for it. I think that in hindsight, maybe a more fluid fabric, a fabric with a bit more drape, would have been nice for this crossover feature. But I also think there's something to be said about having this bit of body in the fabric to really make that super pronounced. But I do notice that I'm constantly sort of fiddling with the shirt, making sure that everything is laying the way that I want it to lay. So it's one of those garments that I absolutely notice that I am wearing it. Like, I'm very aware that I have this top on when I'm wearing it. And I think there is something to be said about something that you could just pop on and just sort of go on about your day and you don't really feel it on you, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense to someone out there. But that is sort of my thought on this. But otherwise, I'm really happy that I made it. I think that it's always worthwhile to have another crisp, white, interesting top in the wardrobe. So it definitely doesn't hurt to have it. And I'm excited that I put my pattern hacking skills to the test once again. This S8834 gift that just keeps on giving. I've really enjoyed messing around with this pattern. All right, now the second thing that I made is this half circle skirt, which I had cut out back in 2020, possibly. I picked up this sateen fabric or satin fabric from Joann Fabrics some time ago. It was in their like spot clearance fabric section, and I just fell in love with the print. I was gonna make it as a more autumnal piece. I had put it off and put it off. I was intending to add pockets to it, and that was a big reason why I didn't just sew it, because I kept saying like, oh, you cut it. I cut it as like a single swoop, so there is only one seam in this, and that is in the center back where I added an invisible zipper. So because of that, I was thinking to myself, am I going to really take the time to lay this out and cut another seam just to put in pockets? Am I going to add pockets? Will I like having pockets right at my hip? Will it sort of balloon out? Will it interrupt the flow of the drape of the fabric? Like, I just had all these nagging thoughts, and that's what made me put it off for almost 2 years. And when I was making this top, I knew that I wanted to make a skirt, which, as you all might remember, I had sort of looked at this fabric as a potential skirt to pair with this. But that fabric also, I was like, ooh, I need to starch that. I need to, make it crisp and press it and do all those things. So I wasn't really in the mood to do that. Then I was having additional thoughts on what I could make with that. So I went into my bag of like works in progress, UFOs, unfinished objects. And I pulled this out and I was like, this is waiting on a center back seam, zipper, and a waistband, and a hem. Fatmata, those are 4 steps. I think you can do this. And so I did. And I'm really happy that I just got it made up. It is a half circle skirt, folks. I couldn't say more about it. It's great, and I guess we'll consider this self-drafted, but really it's like drafted probably using like a by hand London circle skirt calculator or a circle skirt calculator from Google somewhere. I think that's what I did way back when. I also did a narrow rolled hem. So I went around the entire hem and did a 3/8 of an inch stitch the whole way around, just to like give it that stability. And then I ran it through my narrow rolled hem foot to give me this sort of clean edge. I would have preferred like a bias bound sort of hem facing. I probably would have preferred a more substantial hem, but because this like sateen fabric is weighty, I think it's not going to like kick up and stuff. But because the underside of the fabric is white, I just don't want it to like blow in the breeze and you see it as much. So I usually like for the hem to be a little bit thicker. But understanding that I was working with a circle skirt, I was not going to add drama and unnecessary challenges where there didn't need to be any. So I went ahead and used the narrow rolled hem foot, and that worked out pretty well. And I put the pattern placement with this sort of down the center front, and then you sort of see it cascade down the side. I like it. We got an invisible zipper. I mean, I like it. Couple of new in things in the sewing room. I got a new chair. Look at me rolling around. I could be here, and then I could be here, and then I could be here. Oh, I am not gonna put the wheels on the back of this skirt. That is drama waiting to happen. But I'm really excited about that, even though I don't have to go far. I do have carpet in this room, so I had to get one of those mats for a rolley chair. But that will give me a bit more like mobility in the sewing room, I think, which I'm excited about. Outside of that, I want to give a warning, firm warning. I went to Walmart and picked up a few sewing related items that I needed. I saw this peel and stick fabric fuse. It is for a permanent adhesive. It is no iron. Sorry, it is press on. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, like an adhesive. It adheres fabric. I was like, this is great. I think this is like that Wonder Tape that I was enjoying so much. I picked this up. I used it when attaching the zipper to my skirt to like hold it in place real quick, like hold this for me, you know, while I go ahead and run you through the zipper foot. Because I don't have an invisible zipper foot on my Singer sewing machine, which I'm still using. So I use my regular zipper foot, and I wanted to get as close to the teeth as possible since it was an invisible zipper. Okay. First of all, the tape itself in question, come out here, it's wide, like it's thick, okay? And I think it's about 5/8 of an inch thick. That's thick. So the actual tape of my zipper is not that wide. So you have it like coming off on the fabric. It's all the things. I gunked up three different needles in the sewing of that skirt, okay? Because it was just, look, you see? Do you see all the fuzz that came off of that needle? Because it is gunky with adhesive. The adhesive, first of all, it wouldn't sew. I was getting skip stitches everywhere, and I was like, what happened to my machine? You are my baby. Don't do that. And it was because the adhesive was like messing up the needle. Then the needle's trying to do its needly thing, and it was terrible. So just caution against this. This is not our beloved Wonder Tape. I'm sure many of you are like, Fatmata, it didn't say Wonder Tape. I know. I thought it was just like an off-brand Walmart Wonder Tape. And when it says permanent, that should have given it away. But this was not that. It really messed up a lot of things. I think like if I'm traveling and I was working on a garment that maybe needed a hem pressed up real quick and I didn't get a chance to sew it, maybe I'd take it and, you know, put this on in there, kind of hold that thing in place. But if it's just to hold something down while I prepare to sew over it, I am not using this again. And I just wanted to make it clear so no one else makes the same mistake I did, okay? Fabric fuse is not Wonder Tape. I also went ahead and picked up a new iron. So I previously had a Rowenta iron. So I picked this up. I remember back when I purchased a new iron last year, a year and a half ago. I don't know. I had done some research, and irons can get costly. So I found one that was like mid-range, and I saw really great reviews for Rowenta. And I also went and picked this up at Walmart. The difference between this and the one that I previously had, I think it's the same wattage and all of that, but this one has the retractable cord, which I appreciate. I just appreciate for like being in this smaller space. So that is really helpful for me. So I got a new iron because the other one, the blade of it, not the blade, but the sole plate was gunked up. So I had been using a blade plate. I was using a sole plate on it, and my cousin was ironing something and it like snapped. I'd had it for a while, so I probably just need to replace it anyways. But people have been needing the iron and then taking this iron, and then it never makes its way back into the sewing space. And every time I have to do some things, I have to run around the house, figure out where it is, and go get it. Wow. First world problems if I ever heard one. But I knew that for just like an iron that is just mine, don't touch this one, I went ahead and got myself this. And I will still get a sole plate for it, most likely, because again, this gunky thing, this permanent adhesive, tried to wrestle with this because I was silly and pressed over the zipper, you know, just trying to make sure everything's neat, and I didn't put a pressing cloth on top of it, of which I have. So why I didn't do it beats me. But yeah, my new iron. I remember when I was doing research on irons also, I looked at the iron that I had at the time, whether it was Hamilton Beach, whether it was Black & Decker, I don't remember. But I realized that it had like false steam holes, and that really made me angry, okay? So I did some research on like what makes a good iron, and really you want something that has as many like holes where the steam comes out and as close to the tip as possible, right? Because when you're getting in there in those little corners, you want to make sure that this is still getting hot, and that if you needed to apply some steam, that there's actually steam that's going to come from it. Now, all of these holes here that you see actually release steam. Like you can actually see into the iron. Now, my previous iron would have like indents, but they weren't holes. It was not producing any steam in those particular sections. And when I actually would look to see which of the holes were actual holes, it was like fewer than half of them. And I was like, you are a lie and a half. I can't believe you disrespected me in this manner. So anyways, I picked myself up a nice iron. Nice for me anyways. I like my Rowenta, so I went back to that. I got to do some cutting recently, and I went ahead and just like took over the entire house, okay? Because I'm on spring break real quick, and was nice to just have like an afternoon. And I thought to myself, the thing that I don't like doing that much is like ironing, pressing all the fabric, getting it ready, and cutting out patterns. I would really like to have some projects ready for me to just stitch up when I have a moment. So I went ahead and just like commandeered the entire space, and I went ahead and cut out my S9702. I want to make this dress. I cut it out of this amazing rayon fabric right here. Okay, this palm leaf amazingness. It's super floaty. Rayon, I mean, wants to be wrinkly all the time. And I do think that there's something to be said about a dress that is this weighty, given the amount of tiers and volume that it has, that might help ease the rayon by weighing it down. That might eliminate just a bit of that creasing. That is my hypothesis, okay? So that's my hope there anyways. So I starched all of that yardage. It is cut, so I'm not gonna lift it up because I don't want to warp anything out of shape. I still have to do the interface pieces because I think I will do the facings, even though I know bias binding could be an option. We'll see how it goes, but I'll cut them out anyways. In addition to that, I went ahead and spray starched and pressed these options as well, just so that they were ready for me when I was ready to sew them. So the first thing that I have here is this gorgeousness, and this is like a crepe fabric that I had picked up at G Street Fabrics in their dead stock section last year. And I initially was going to make this as the skirt to wear with this top, which of course, whatever I make, I can still wear with it. But I might still make a skirt. I'm not gonna lie, but I wanted to make a bias cut skirt, and I am so afraid to make a bias cut skirt. I don't know what happened to me after I made the Sicily slip dress, but I just thought to myself, maybe you just don't know how to sew on the bias. Like, stop. And I have to get over that, because I know I'm going to love bias cut garments, but that one, it really did something to me. That was since last February. It's been over a year, and I have not revisited a bias cut garment yet. But because I was sort of thinking this would be a bias cut skirt, and then thinking maybe it doesn't need to be. So then when I was sort of thinking against doing a bias cut skirt, I also realized that this Vogue pattern 9663, this is a vintage pattern that I thrifted, that I got with my vintage sewing machine, has this awesome skirt, the one that's in the emerald green here. Super simple. First of all, I love this pattern and can't wait to give you a deeper dive on this and hopefully find like an in-stock sort of equivalent to recommend to you all, because it is so simple in its making. I actually used the waistband for this for the circle skirt, the half circle skirt that I'm wearing right now. But yeah, it's in a size 30 waist, which would fit my waist, but I don't think it goes out far enough in the hip, at least not by the body measurements on the back of the envelope. But I am going to measure the pattern pieces, because I don't believe that those are the finished garment measurements. I just think it's the body measurement. So I do think it's going to span out enough, hopefully, because the pattern pieces are like cut out almost as like a quarter circle skirt almost. Any hoosers, I would definitely have enough fabric to make that skirt with this fabric. And I guess I was a bit hesitant also with the slip skirt, because I know you need a bit more fabric since you're cutting it, you know, on the bias, not on the straight grain. And I don't know if I have enough of that fabric to account for like the length of bias cut skirt that I want, which would be a bit longer. Anyway, that was a long-winded way of saying that this fabric is most likely destined to be this Vogue 9663 pattern, the skirt version. Then I also went ahead and starched and ironed this incredible jacquard rayon fabric with the most gorgeous little bursts of colors on here. I think it's so beautiful. So you can definitely see that rayon, the jacquard weave through it, which I think is just beautiful. I have about 2 yards of this. Now, 2 yards, I just don't think it's enough to make a dress. I've tried in the past to squeeze dresses out of 2 yards, and I've done them, but I don't know that I look back and I'm like, oh, I really love that dress. So I was thinking to myself, maybe I could just make a beautiful blouse. So I was considering the McCall's 8147 pattern, mainly because I want to make it up. Like, I want to have an experience making this pattern to know if it is as easy as I'm thinking in my mind it could be. And that way I can just make it time and time again, because I think it's just so awesome, timeless. I'm thinking view B, you know, and because view B only needs 1 yard and 3/4 of an inch of fabric, which I feel like is a lot for that, but I'll see what the cutting layout means. But either that or the pussy bow blouse, which is view C. So some options there, but that's what I think I'm going to use this rayon for. I like that it has the pops of pink. It has the really deep sort of blue, almost like more like a true blue, right? Which I really like. And also a bit of the teal in there. So I think it's going to be lovely. I starched and ironed this as well. This is such a cool print fabric. And also I hope you can see that texture right there, right? So it has these sections that are gorgeously sort of textured, running through this gingham. Is this a large scale gingham fabric? And I love it. So I thrifted this fabric some time ago, and there is about, oh, I definitely counted, but I don't know. It's a shorter width, but I think there might be about 3 yards in here. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to make out of this. My thought was, if I go ahead and make the Simplicity pattern S9702 and I like it, like, would I be able to make it out of this? Don't know if I would have enough fabric now that I've actually cut this pattern out before. It takes a lot. And I don't know that I'd be able to get it out of this, or I could just make the gathers a bit less full. I'm not sure, but I'm sure there's something better I could do with this. I was also thinking, because it's such a, you know, grid of a print, you know what I mean? I always think of S9114, the dress version, that Mimi G sort of duster slash dress button up front pattern. Because the top of it is so boxy, it is great when you don't want to like break up and disrupt a print so much. And the sleeve is more of a drop sleeve, so it doesn't have a really high arm side like sleeve cap. It's just really well done and fits for prints like this, where you don't want to break up or have to pattern match all of those grid lines as much. So I was considering that as well, which I think could just be an easy throw on sort of thing. So that might be what I go for. I haven't made that pattern in a while, and I love it a lot. Then finally, these two kind of go together. And you might remember these two Ankara Bazin fabrics from last February or last January, when I made the flamenco skirt out of this. And I'm revisiting the remnants because I'd really love to get a Zadie jumpsuit out of this and do some pattern, like, and play with the print placement. So do like the bodice out of one of, it would probably have to be the green. The green is what I use more of in the skirt, so I have less of it left. So I might do that for the bodice and do like the bottoms and stuff out of the purple and sort of figure out where all the pieces go. But I went ahead and ironed those just in case I was inspired to do that, because I really liked the way the skirt flowed. So I do think that it could work as the Zadie jumpsuit. It has enough structure, but also would just have a bit of drape. I mean, Ankara is not known for its drapiness by any means, but I think that this particular fabric was pretty nice. The only thing that I was actually able to cut out after my like massive ironing and cutting session was actually Simplicity S9702. It took forever to do, and I remember laughing at myself because I brought all these things upstairs and I was like, I'm gonna have a cutting session. This is gonna be great. And after I was done with this, I was like, it is time to pick up the children. We have no more time left. Like, in what world were you going to starch and iron and cut all of these things? I was like, Fatmata, get a grip. So it is the only thing I have cut out, but it is the thing I am least excited to have to sew. I know that sounds awful, but let me explain. All I'm saying is this rayon fabric is very, it's light. I mean, this had a really good starch, but not all, this was like yards of fabric that I was trying to starch and iron. And not all of the pieces really took the stiffness of the starch as well as I would have hoped. So I'm just trying to think about like having to gather all of that fabric, having to like make sure that the neckline doesn't stretch out. Like, I can't say I'm excited to sew it, but I cannot wait to wear it. And therefore I just need to suck it up. That's it. And go ahead and make it. That's it. Because there are no other options. Now, I did I made the McCall's 6287 vintage jogger bottoms out of that cobalt blue fabric that I showed you all last week. It's upstairs. It's not like finished, but you know that stage where it's wearable enough and then you put it on and then it's of the world. So it's upstairs now. And I really need to bring that thing back down here and hope that one of these projects where I have blue thread in the machine, just do it. because that's one of those things that will be out there in the world as an unfinished piece for the next 3 years if I don't do that immediately. I think that's all I have to say. Those are the things that I got in. That's what I've been up to. These are the things that I've made since I last saw you. I do want to talk about my blue shoulder. Can you see it? Can you see the disrespect? And my blue collar? I am a blue collar. Look, do you see the blue? The disrespect, you know? It's just like, look at that. On my cuffs. I was using the water soluble, like little pen things, right? I used the Mark Be Gone. It says it's water soluble ink, okay? I used it, and I just want to show you this in real time, because why? Hath thou forsaken me? Look at this, all right? When I spray it with water, sure, disappears. Look at me, dripping water everywhere. Disappears, gone. And then it comes back. Why? I'm not going to sit here and wait until it comes back, but just know that, of course, I've sprayed all of these things. I have sprayed this, I don't know how many times now, okay? And it's just so annoying because it keeps coming back. And I didn't necessarily want to have to put this in the wash just yet because I just made it. Like, it is fine. I'd pre-washed the fabric. Like, I don't want to have to wash this because then I'll have to iron it again. And I'm done sewing it and I don't want to iron it again. But all of this blue keeps popping up on my white top and I don't like it. So I have to go and fix that. That's all I have to say. So a little bit about life. It is Ramadan. I don't know that I shared that with you all, but it is Ramadan. So me and my family are observing our blessed month and it's been good. But with that comes a lot more time and attention needed elsewhere, which is fantastic. Actually, it's good. But it just means that I haven't been able to take up as much time sewing, even though I'm on break, because I'm doing other things. So I'm trying to find more times and just be more mindful about when I can film and trying to film some things in advance for you all, because I do want to be as present as possible this month, this year for Ramadan. I feel like last April, I was all about my Veda series, the video every day in April that I did last year, which was fun. I love the content and the types of topics that I covered during that month, but it took up so much energy to film, record, edit, and put all of those out on a daily. And I was like, you're really not taking advantage of what this month is supposed to be for you, you know what I mean, spiritually. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So needless to say, I'm not doing Veda this year, but there is another month that starts with A, August, which is also my birthday month. So maybe we'll do Veda in August. Who knows? I'm not making any promises, but just wanted to let you know that's where I'm at. And so it's been nice to have this little moment to tuck away and have this conversation and kind of share with you what I've been up to sewing wise. I hope you've been doing well. If you have left me a comment, I so appreciate it. Please continue to share with me. I just asked for a bit of grace. I'm going to get to the comments as soon as I can because I have a little bit of time and just want to see what everyone is up to, how you're enjoying the makes thus far. Additionally, I'm leaving for a conference this weekend, so I'll be away beginning Saturday morning. So that's gonna sort of take up that last final weekend of sewing that I was hoping to have. So I will see what I can get done before the conference and then see if I take any of those items to conference. We shall see. But that is all from me because I am going to keep going if you let me. So I'm just going to stop myself here. I hope that you're doing well. Can't wait to get you a full video and review of the making of this shirt. Well, with that being said, I hope you're having a great day. And I would love to hear what you're working on in the comments down below. How do you like my most recent makes? And how are you with sewing challenges? You know? I feel like I struggle with this every single year. Me and deadlines. Me and I want to be there. I want to be of the moment. I want to be in the space. I want to be within the mix. And then they just pass me up. It gotta get more concrete in my sewing plans. And I think the not planning a lot of my projects well in advance has been the culprit of that. But right now I'm in a like sew to make you grow, sew to make you happy sort of stage. And I think that's exactly where I need to be right now. So have a wonderful day. And I hope to chat with you soon. Stay creative, friends. Bye-bye.